2023 may have been a different year in which new 2D music projects and 2D units were few. Male SEIYUU avoided making solo debuts, and there were plenty of established 2D music projects that went under the radar or announced their end. But there was more to it. When it comes to the live shows, male SEIYUU artists and 2D music projects were quite active. Concept series and CDs were starting to become a trend, and there were plenty of veteran SEIYUU making a comeback after years away from the spotlight. In this episode, you and I are going to revisit some of those things and notice how this year was, despite what it may seem like. Quite an awesome year if you're a fan of SEIYUU artists and 2D groups. Let's kick off this episode of SEIYUU Lounge. Welcome to SEIYUU Lounge. I am your host Vanessa, and today's topic is 2023 in review. The big live shows, concept series, surprises and more. This is another episode in the series dedicated to covering the big happenings in 2023 among male SEIYUU artists and 2D groups. Please note that this is by no means an exhaustive episode, as I'll be covering some of the biggest happenings, not all. If I missed anything or you feel like there are any happenings worth putting the spotlight on, share those in the comments on YouTube or on Spotify. The surprises of 2023. A possible return. Bandiaroses, Osiris and Blast made their return to live performances in March for Dream Match Dual Gig 2023 Raven Advent. This was a long-awaited return by the franchise and its two most popular bands after a long hiatus that had made fans quite anxious about the franchise's future. But with this live show held in March and the announcement of a crossover live show in January 2024 with From Argonaveses, Gyroaxia and Phantom Iris, it is safe to say that many of us, longtime fans of Bandiarose, are hopeful of what the future holds for the project. This was easily one of the most exciting news in the 2D music industry, a long-awaited comeback and a deserved one. On my end, I hope things keep improving for the Bandiarose franchise and eventually we get new music by all bands and a return to regular live shows by some or even all bands. Aopella changed companies from K-Lab to Marvelous. The biggest surprise of them all, at least I feel like it. For those of you who were paying close attention to Aopella as a whole, you might have noticed that K-Lab was the company behind launching this project. I was in close conversation with the K-Lab team in Tokyo for the first year the project was on, even writing an extended feature about the project that got the okay from the Japanese team. But soon I was told that the Aopella franchise was changing its focus. I was told the international market is not our focus at the moment, which sounded weird as it seemed that the project had been pushing towards it right from the start. The music had been made available on streaming platforms worldwide, and the cover music videos were getting millions of views, with most of those being by international fans. If I was on K-Lab's side back then, especially in the marketing department, I would have seen those metrics on YouTube and noticed that most of the views were from international fans, and I would continue to cater to both them and Japanese fans. Fast forward to 2023, and I found a couple of things weird about the project. All of a sudden, the group's fourth CD was nowhere to be found when it came to purchasing it at a regular online store. Then, the CD was not available on Ototoi, which is an online digital music store based in Japan. And the last nail in the coffin was the fact that Aopella's music was not made available, at least readily, on streaming platforms worldwide. As both a fan of the project since basically day one, as well as a music reviewer, not being able to review the music on time and having the CD available online was weird. That's when I checked who was in charge of Aopella. Well, maybe K-Lab is going through a weird moment. I don't know. Well, it was not that. It seems that K-Lab sold the rights to Aopella to Marvelous, the company partially behind the 2D music project Fabulous Night. And oh boy, let me tell you just how bad of a deal this one is. Marvelous is a company that is Japan-centric. All their content is made only for the Japanese public. They rarely, if ever, make the music from their 2D music projects available for purchase as digital releases or available for free on streaming platforms. But you will say, but Vanessa, isn't the Fabulous Night music available on streaming platforms? So what are you saying here? Well, to which I will reply, yes, it is, but that is because Marvelous is just a co-creator with Reject. And with Reject's recent focus on making the music available on streaming platforms, Marvelous can't go against them. So, with Marvelous taking the wheel with Aopella, we got the debut of a new group in the franchise, Vedlip, still in 2022. Instead of having, for example, more focus on creating music for the existing groups, or holding a live show, or even a live talk event. At the moment of writing this feature, the new music hasn't been made available on streaming platforms worldwide. And unless you are going to purchase the physical edition of the franchise CDs, there is no other way to have access to the music legally. This is a big reason why I have, in a way, almost stopped reviewing music from this franchise. I still love it to bits, but I don't have the money to purchase physical editions just for review purposes. And I believe many of you won't have the money to purchase music from this franchise as well. So seeing it from a marketing lens, Marvelous's move towards not having Aopella's music available almost simultaneously with the physical CD releases is just a way to alienate a big international fanbase. Don't get me wrong, I understand focusing on a market you already know, but seeing as Japanese fans are not flocking to this project like they do to others, was this really a sound strategy? By making the project Japan-centric, you notice that there is less buzz about the project, especially among international fans. At the same time, with all groups releasing music less frequently, slowly, Aopella is losing a lot of momentum and may have a tough road ahead to regain its popularity. Having this big a change for a 2D music project that was gaining a lot of fans internationally and was actually selling pretty well, while having good stream numbers as well, is just a waste of talent of a really good 2D music project. Hopefully this is all an adaptation period for Aopella, now in the hands of Marvelous, but I'm not this optimistic knowing the company's track record managing 2D music projects. Jin Ogasawara announced a hiatus from his solo artist activities. In November 2023, Jin Ogasawara announced on his solo artist website the suspension of his artist activities effective December 31st, 2023. This arrived a bit out of nowhere, taking into account how in 2022 he was on fire with a series of experimental new singles in which he tested new skills and singing styles in an array of songs in the most diverse music genres. In 2023, he was quieter, releasing only one single, Tokyo Hollywood. To everyone's surprise, the talented solo artist decided to put his solo career on hold immediately after the release of his first album, Sokai Gyoretsusha, set to release on the last day of 2023. Whatever the future holds, I hope Jin Ogasawara can make a triumphant return to the music industry. Takehito Koyasu released his first album in 15 years. This is possibly one of the most unpredictable and amazing stories of 2023. 15 years after he announced the end of his solo career, Takehito Koyasu made his return to the music industry. This was as crazy as you could think. The mastermind behind the Pioneer 2.5D SEIYUU unit, Vice Kreutz, and the project of the same name, announced his long-awaited comeback to the music industry in January 2023, surprising everyone. The mini-album, New Flavor, includes a collection of new songs, some of those featured in Koyasu Radio, a radio show that Koyasu co-hosts with his son. Hiroki Takahashi's 20th Anniversary Live. Hiroki Takahashi's 20th year anniversary live, Believe in Your Heart, was held in September in Tokyo. This live show was held after a full decade of holding no live shows and marked the 20th anniversary since the release of his debut single, Believe in Your Heart. Soichiro Hoshi's 30th anniversary mini-album release. 2023 was also the year to celebrate Soichiro Hoshi's 30th anniversary as a voice actor. And to celebrate that important milestone, he announced the release of the mini-album Restart Journey, a direct follow-up to 2018's album Voice and Harmony. With 6 solo songs and one alongside his band Is Lala, fans got to dive into Hoshi's classic pop-rock world. The concept mini-albums. Wataru Hatano keeps on pushing the boundaries of his music. Since the release of last year's third full-length album, Taurus, it seems that Hatano has found a passion for creating a cohesive narrative across a set of songs, creating concept albums that truly feel different from what other SEIYUU artists are doing. In 2023, he released the mini-album Dawn and yet again experimented with his music and the concept of, yes, what a concept album should be. The mini-album features a story interwoven into the music, with 3 reading tracks and 3 new songs. Wataru Hatano, alongside guest and fellow SEIYUU artist Kotaro Nishiyama, create a unique world and a story you want to dive into. If you're curious about this concept mini-album, make sure to check it out and experience the story for yourself. With these types of CDs, it is usually really hard to explain how fascinating and intricate they can be. As such, I always recommend that you check it out prior to reading any review online. Concept mini-albums or albums are made for you to experience a story for the very first time and connect with it in a unique way, your way. And I absolutely love that Wataru Hatano is taking this unique approach to his solo artist career, keeping things fresh. Concept Series. Junta Terashima's Seasons digital single series. In March 2023, following his 4th anniversary as a solo artist, Junta Terashima announced the start of the 4-season digital single series. 4 singles, each alluding to a season, were released throughout the year, kicking off with Rebloom in spring, Raban in the summer, Pain and Autofocus in autumn, and at the time of writing this feature, late November 2023, there are still no details about the winter-themed digital single. It is worth mentioning that all these digital singles were released independently, not by a music label. It is nice to see more and more male SEIYUU artists creating concept series from digital singles under a theme or themed albums and EPs. This shows the creativity running in these artists and the care towards creating a unique experience or a narrative for fans to dive into. Yumo Uchida's digital single series. Starting in May 2023 and to celebrate his 5th anniversary as a solo artist, popular solo artist Yumo Uchida announced the start of his first ever digital single series. A series of 6 singles, each celebrating a different aspect of his solo artist career up until now, were released until November, culminating in the release of his 3rd full-length album, Why. The big live shows. 2023 was filled with live shows of all kinds, with 2D music projects being a bit quieter than usual. SEIYUU artists, bands and units took the stage to showcase their talents. Shotawoi, Yumo Uchida, Soma Saito, Sparklu, Sir Vanity, Gyro Axia, Gran Rodeo and Mamoru Miano were just some of the artists to take over the stage and impress in 2023. Let's look at some of the highlights in 2023. ZUL Live Legacy, A Pause. In 2023, ZUL finally held its first one-man live show, ZUL Live Legacy, A Pause. With a set filled with urban, fiery dance tunes and the occasional R&B and rap rock tune, the talented quartet, part of the Idolish 7 franchise, showed how impressive and cohesive they can be on stage. If their performances at Idolish 7's franchise live shows up until now hadn't been enough to convince everyone. Sir Vanity's second live Midnight Sun. Currently the most exciting band fronted by male SEIYUU, Sir Vanity has been impressing everyone with their unique take on their pop rock sound, creating and crafting unique experiences with stories interesting enough to make you come back for more. Tied with the release of the EP Midnight Sun came the live show Sir Vanity's second live Midnight Sun. The show was a resounding success, with the band filling almost 2 hours of performances with all the songs they released up until now, and given the lack of new music to add to the setlist, a couple of songs even got to be repeated throughout the live show. Makoto Furukawa's first live show. After celebrating his 5th anniversary as a solo artist with the release of the special single Place Your Bets, popular SEIYUU solo artist and lyricist Makoto Furukawa had exciting plans. He was going to hold his first live show, Furukawa Makoto First Real Live Call in the Box, in November, neatly wrapping up 5 years of amazing jazz and rock music, with the occasional surprise in the mix provided by the songs in Room of No Name. Soma Saito 5th Anniversary Live Étranger Banquet. If you thought that Soma Saito was just a singer-songwriter with the talent to craft unbelievable stories within a CD, you may need to check out the live show Soma Saito 5th Anniversary Live Étranger Banquet, as Soma Saito's world as a solo artist took over a uniquely designed set, following 2 completely different concepts for each of the days of the live show. This resulted in 2 unique back-to-back live shows, including the best of Soma Saito's music until now, and for the very first time featuring an acoustic corner in which some of his songs got unique rearrangements for the very first time, made just for both days of the live show. Live-action music videos. In 2023, Unite Up was the only 2D music project to focus on live-action music videos. All the bands and groups part of the project, which is more of a mixed media project than it is specifically a 2D one, got music videos this year. However, Protostar and Legit were the ones getting live-action music videos. At the same time, the project as a whole focused a lot on showing the behind the scenes of the SEIYUU practicing for their live event held this year. And the cherry on top for fans of the franchise was the release of the live-action music video for Unite Up's self-titled song Unite Up. Aside from Unite Up, the other 2D music project that continues to release cast music videos is Tokyo Color Sonic. However, in 2023, the project didn't release one. It seems that the live-action music video trend was rather short-lived, with most 2D music projects going back to most budget-friendly strategies instead of music videos to showcase the SEIYUU behind the mic, or even, like in the case of Unite Up's Protostar and Legit, full-fledged music videos with a concept. I love seeing the trend regaining its fire. However, I know that by the end of the day, 2D music projects are selling or promoting 2D characters, not the SEIYUU behind them, as most fans of 2D music projects don't care about the SEIYUU, only the characters. And with these, you and I wrap up this episode of SEIYUU Lounge. Let's head over to the outro. There was plenty of action when it came to the live shows, tours, and even concept live shows. Male SEIYUU artists, 2D groups, franchises, SEIYUU units and rock bands were quite active, focusing on performing live and showcasing their talents. When 2023 started, if you had told me that Takehito Koyasu and Soichiro Hoshi were going to make a comeback, I wouldn't have believed you. Out of all the comebacks, Koyasu's is the biggest one, as he was almost 20 years away from his solo artist career. At the same time, it was interesting to see more and more SEIYUU artists focusing on concept CDs or digital series. It is good to see their creativity flowing, creating a more cohesive experience for the fans to enjoy, especially when it comes to concept CDs. And of course, I was surprised with the changes that Aupella went through as a 2D music project. If you ask me, I am worried about the future of the project, especially after knowing which company is now managing it. But enough about what I think. It's time to know what you think. So tell me, what was the biggest happening for you in 2023? What was the news about male SEIYUU or 2D groups, for example, that really made you excited? Let me know in the comments on YouTube, and remember, leave your comments as complex or as simple as they may be, and you can be featured on upcoming episodes of SEIYUU Lounge. If you enjoyed this episode and don't want to miss the THTFHQ's weekly male SEIYUU and music-related content, hit the subscribe button. If you are listening to this episode on a podcast listening platform, please consider following the podcast and leaving a review. Leaving a review is really simple and helps other people find this podcast and fall in love with male SEIYUU artists and 2D groups. I'll return next week with another episode of SEIYUU Lounge. Thank you for listening and see you guys around.